This summer at Wolves has been a story of, well, mass exodus. We've had some big name departures and very little really in terms of incomings so far. Players such as Ruben Neves being the biggest one. He's gone to Saudi Arabia, but also Nathan Collins has moved on. He's gone to Brentford. Feels like a good pickup by them, as well as the free transfer departures of Adama Traore, Diego Costa and Joao Moutinho, names that have become synonymous with Wolves in this Premier League era. It's going to be a tough ask to try and rebuild this club this summer with only Matt Doherty in through the door so far. It's a rebuild job, which is what we're going to do in today's video. Hopefully, realistically, we're going to have a look at what can be done. We're going to try and stick to things like FFP, which seems to be a bit of an issue here at Wolves. We're going to try and work in the vision of Julen Lopetegui, who has stayed at the club, which feels like a big thing in itself. Hopefully, we can rebuild this club in a realistic way. We'll sim the season. We'll see how Wolves get on and have a lovely chat about it as we go. Sound fun? I think it does. Let's get into the video. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the 2023-24 Premier League table as we use an updated database for today's video as we try to realistically rebuild Wolves. You can see them here in this table, which includes teams like Luton, Sheffield United, and then Wolves right down at the bottom, look, which I'm told is alphabetical at the moment. So hopefully we can improve that in today's video. Today, we're going to try and do some transfers, do some signings that I think are realistic to solidify Wolves' place in this Premier League. And if you think this is a fun idea, please do subscribe to the channel. I'll get the plug in early today. I'm aiming for 50k subscribers by the end of the summer, which I think you guys can do, which would be really, really cool. So if you haven't already subscribed and you like this type of video and you want to see other teams and maybe you're a Wolves fan coming across to watch this one, please do subscribe. I would really, really appreciate it. Leave a like on the video too. It does help with pushing it out into that weird known thing known as the algorithm. Anyway, let's have a look at the state of play for Wolves this summer by having a look at the transfers that have already been completed. I've tried to make things as up to date as possible so that we can work with it in a realistic way. Now, with an up-to-date database, it does play weirdly with the dates on here. So we've got last year's transfers as well as this year's transfers, but hopefully I can explain them all away. Basically, all we need to know about the incomings is that Matt Doherty has joined the club on a free transfer from Atletico Madrid. He's back at Wolves after leaving them in 2019 to go to Spurs, which didn't really work out for him, did it? He's been at Atletico since then, and he had I don't actually know how his season went, to be honest. I think he had an okay season. He's back at Wolves anyway on a free transfer, and he's the only real incoming so far this summer. They've had some loans end, which could be significant, but they've not signed anyone yet. That's what we're going to do in today's video. The outgoings, though, have been pretty significant. As you mentioned before, if I sort this by the date here, we have had players such as Ruben Neves exit the club for around it was actually more than this, about £40 million, wasn't it? It was more than the 15 that I've managed to get on FM23. So take the prices and the transfer values with a pinch of salt in this. I'm going to do things as realistically as possible, but also FM is going to FM. So the values might be slightly different, but the players we're targeting will fall in line with this. I'm going to try and keep it pretty realistic, as I mentioned before. We've also sold Nathan Collins, £20 million. Connor Cody has gone to Leicester for $2 million on the game, but $7 million in real life, which feels like a nice little bonus considering he wasn't at the club last year anyway because of his loan at Everton. So, and big money, to be honest, to be spending by Leicester in the Championship. Those are the main outgoings, as well as the free transfers of Diego Costa, Adama Traore, and Joao Moutinho, who feels like he's been here for a very long time. Probably because he has been here for a very long time. We're going to work with all of this then, all of this knowledge and the circumstances around the club to do with FFP and how much money can actually be spent to try and realistically bring some players in to fit this system here, which is a fun one, isn't it? It's slightly lopsided, but it's basically a 4-2-3-1. And in the image of what Lopetegui might be about to play next season with things looking like this. If I put the players in like this, then actually it might look a little bit like this with today's current squad. You can notice straight away that we've got two big absences. There is no striker in the squad. We've had real issues here at Wolves with trying to have a striker because Diego Costa is a little bit old, didn't really work. Fabio Silva struggled and then went out on loan. We have Raul Jimenez, who just hasn't been the same since the accident, which is sad to say. And he's actually going to move on to Fulham now officially, it seems. So he's one that's definitely on his way out. We're going to need to buy a striker in today's video. And then goalkeeper, Jose Sarr looks like his time at the club is done. We're going to need to bring in a goalkeeper too. But if we have a look at the squad, we've got Doherty or Semedo at right back, Aït-Nouri, Kilman, Dawson as the centre-backs. Do we need another centre-back? Probably. Chiquinho was an option. Sorry, not Chiquinho. Totti was an option last year. I wonder if he's going to get more starts this year. Not sure, but as we talk about Chiquinho, by the way, he's gone out on loan to Stoke, along with Keanu Hoover, who has also moved on too. So another 2 exits that I will need to replicate in the game as we do transfers in a minute. We've got the midfield of Lamina and Nunes. João Gomez can play in there as well. Sarabia, going to say it right now, I think he's going to have a big season for Wolves this year. I feel like Lopetegui is going to make him an important part of this squad. In the friendly so far, it feels like he's going to get on the ball a lot and hopefully try and make things happen. So he's going to be part of the plans. Neto on this side. Cunha, his move has been made permanent in this part here, in this role just behind the striker, which we're going to need to go and sign a striker, I think. We've got players on the bench like Podence, but some of these players, their future's up in the air as well. Guedes is back from his loan, but also was out on loan last year. So will he move on? There's a lot of things up in the air. There is Fabio Silva, look, back from his loan, but will he get chances this year or will it be another loan? A lot of money spent on him. He did okay, I think, in his first season, but then that loan last year to, it was PSV and then it was to Anderlecht, I think, the 2 loans that he did. There's work to be done, isn't there? This is the state of play. We've got a little bit of money to spend, and I say a little bit because there's been some FFP rumblings, hasn't there, in the press? There was Retegui, the Italian striker that plays in Argentina, was linked with a move. It felt like Wolves were about to make a play for him before he moved to Genoa, officially in real life. And then I think Fabrizio Romano cited FFP reasons being the reason that he didn't go to Wolves, which feels a bit strange because they made the bid. Either way, there's something at play there, so we are going to need to be careful with the money that we do spend. I feel like with the Neves exit, though, that there should be a little bit to play with. We will see. We're gonna see what we can do to improve on this squad and try and solidify their place in the Premier League, maybe even push towards top half as a bit of a stretch goal for Wolves this year. They've got talent. There's a lot of talented players. Like, I love Nunes. I really like Cunha. Sarabia, like I mentioned, is going to be, I think, important this year. Maybe if we can sort this defence out, hold on to Kilman, who's linked with Napoli, of course, then there's players in this squad. I think it just needs a few more parts adding to it, which is what we're going to go and try and do now. I'm going to go do some transfers. I'll see you when I've done them before we will then sim the season to see how we get on in this 4-4-1-1 Loppenheimer system, which is just, I feel like it's just a fun name, isn't it, to have gone for. I will go and do those transfers and I'll see you after that. Oh, by the way, just to mention as well, with this up-to-date database and this tactic, I'm putting all of this onto the Patreon, otherwise known as the Claytreon. Thank you so much to the current Claytreon members. You will have access to the save files before I've done any transfers, after I've done the transfers, and then after the sim of the season as well, if you wanted to continue from that point onwards. You guys have at it. Have those save files with the up-to-date database and everything. And also, if you're a Wolves fan and you want to use this tactic that's been created, then feel free to go and do so. It will be on the Patreon or the Claytreon, as I often call it as well. Thank you so much to those current Claytreon members. Let's get into these transfers. Okay, transfers then. Let's start with the exit, where I've managed to raise a little bit of extra money to go and spend some money on players coming in, because I talked about this exodus and then I've gone and sold extra players too, but there's some reasoning behind them. Let's go through them. Let's start with Chiquinho and Hoover, are 2 players that have gone on loan in real life, both gone to Stoke in real life, but I've given them to Norwich and Bristol City on this save file. Then a few players going off to Saudi Arabia. Teams are exploiting this option of sending their players that are no longer wanted to Saudi Arabian teams for decent money. Wolves have already benefited from this with the sale of Ruben Neves for a very decent price. I think that we could see a few extra ones going there. We've got, in this save file, Podence going there for £15 million. Jimenez went there for me for £20 million. He's actually gone to Fulham in real life for a lot less than that, but either way, he's exited the club here. Johnny's gone to ABBA, not that one, for £20 million. Again, that would be a really big price for him, but again, pay a little bit of attention to the price points in this save, but also take them with a pinch of salt, because it's not quite, I mean, we're going to sell players for more and also sign players for more, so it kind of averages out, and they're always, it works out just about in the end as being realistic, in my book anyway, so don't pay too much attention to them is what I will say. We've got Ryan Giles going to Middlesbrough. I think that's a player he's actually going to leave in real life. Jordao's gone for a little bit of money. Guedes has gone on loan. Again, he went on loan last year. I could see it happening again this year, if not having that permanent sale. Jose Sarr, we talked about selling. He's gone to Forest, which is who he's linked with actually in real life. And then Boller has gone to Coventry on here. A little bit of extra money to fund some signings. Let me talk you through the incomings and some of the rationale behind them, because I think they're quite interesting. Let's sort this by here. And these guys are the players that we've managed to bring in. Let's start at the top with this one. Benjamin Dominguez. He's a very Wolves-like signing. It was him or Ivan Jamie, who is another youngster that I've seen a few links with, but also would fit the profile of players that Wolves like to bring in young and just before they hit their peak, and hopefully picking them up cheap from the continent seems to be the way that Wolves do a lot of their business. Obviously, in the past, lots of players from Portugal, but I think we're seeing some Spanish players like Sarabia, for example, coming in as well. Benjamin Dominguez is one of those. He's Argentinian, but I think fits the profile quite well. He has a load of value now. He's come in for £8 million and is going to provide an option on this left-hand side, the Sarabia role, as I'm calling it from now on. He's the first signing I've made. Next up, a big one, and one that would be a real marker, I think, for Wolves this summer. He's wanted by pretty much everybody. Alex Scott at Bristol. The new Jack Grealish is kind of what he's being labelled as, isn't it? He's come in for around about, for me, 22.5 to 25 million pounds. Now, that could be negotiable. It depends on the add-ons and things, but I think it's something that Wolves could do with some of the exits. Again, FFP around this, I think it would work. He's homegrown as well, so you can see the reasoning for this for Wolves for sure. He's come in, and then I think he's going to provide a really good option. That Cunha role, maybe behind the striker, maybe from out wide to start with. We'll see how Lopetegui would use him if he does come in. Next up, a defender, much needed defender, very heavily linked. Nico Alvedi. Seems like Gladbach, which is his current team, are just waiting on a few transfer things here and there to decide whether to let him go, but I think it's something that will happen. He's going to want that Premier League move, and he's a right-sided defender to come in and maybe partner Max Kilman, maybe replacing Dawson could be the way to go for Alvedi. Robert Sanchez, goalkeeper. He's cost me a lot of money on this save, but in real life, I think he'd cost a lot less than this, with Brighton already pretty much replacing him and his contract things going on. I think he'd be a really good option for Wolves as well. He is Spanish, so he speaks that, I think there's a lot of Spanish speaking. Portuguese is not too dissimilar as well, so I think it kind of fits with Lopetegui, the manager, of course, as well. Obviously, that fits too. I could see it happening, Robert Sanchez coming in as the new goalkeeper. Then a couple more signings, and that's it really. We've got Yusuf Shermiti coming in as a loanee. Another option for striker, 6'4". I think with the signing of Kaladzic, I think is how you pronounce it, they show that they do want this big target man type striker. Jamiti on loan could be an option from Sporting, that Portuguese market, something that they are going to continue to use for sure. And then finally, not a player that I've seen linked all that much, but definitely fits the bill in terms of the striker that they might want. Abel Ruiz was available on the game, and I thought, do you know what? That kind of works. I could see Wolves doing something like this. He's Spanish. He's 22, so he's in that young. Yeah, he's still young. He is a 6-foot striker. He's playing in Portugal for Braga, where he's done okay. He made the move there from Barcelona. That's the Barcelona youth teams, which is where he came from. I could see this one happening. Alternatively, I will just say we could see somebody like Kelechi Iheanacho. I would love Iheanacho to make the move to Wolves, by the way. I think he's great. I think he'd be a really good signing, but I'd have him as one of the alternatives here, as well as the guy at AZ Alkmaar. Vangelis Pavlidis is his name. I've seen some links to him over this summer too. He's one that maybe could be an option. Iheanacho, Pavlidis, or Ruiz. I've gone for Ruiz in this one. It's a little bit more left field, and I've not seen any links. And if it does come off, then we could all say that I'm a genius, which might not happen, but those are the options. With all of that business then, I think it could see the squad look a little bit like this anyway, with obviously some changes could happen in here, but this could be a fun and young and I think really interesting Wolves team, with Sanchez in goal, with Doherty, Alvedi, Kilman and Aït-Nouri as the defence. Maybe this could be Semedo, depending on where Doherty is now after his year in Spain. Lemina and Nunes in that midfield. Again, João Gomez, I talked about him before. Sarabia on this left-hand side. I could also see Nunes doing this role quite a lot, by the way, which would see Sarabia could play in a different position. You could see Scott play in the midfield. I think there's a lot of interchangeability with this, and Nunes definitely is somebody that Lopetegui likes to play on these wide positions. I'm not sure it's his best position by any means, by the way, but it's definitely a place that he's been played by Lopetegui. And then if we move through, I'm just going to leave them like this because I think it's quite interesting, actually. You could have Scott on this right-hand side or in the midfield, maybe even in this 10 role. You've got Cunha in behind the new striker, which could be Ruiz. We might see some more of Fabio Silva. We might see some Neto in the starting lineup. We might see some Kaladzic playing some games finally after his big injury. Who knows? There's a lot of really good players that can play in a number of different positions, which I think is what Lopetegui's going to want. I'm going to go and now, I'm actually going to unpick this selection here. I'm going to go and simulate the season from this point on, see who is picked, see who plays, and see how this system does in the Premier League season. We'll come back in May when we've had a season to see how Wolves and their new signings have done. Let's go find out. So here we are then after the simulation, and we finished fourth, which might be slightly over-egging it, I think. We finished in fourth place, qualifying for the Champions League, just behind Chelsea, Liverpool, and the title winners, Manchester City. We finished above Arsenal, above United, and above Newcastle, which it feels a little unlikely, but we would be one hell of a season, wouldn't it? It does make me think that maybe this tactic is a little bit OP, which, by the way, you can go and download on the Clayts if you want to, but I guess it shows that actually with a little bit of recruitment, this squad is good, at least in the eyes of Football Manager. This is a strong squad with very talented footballers. It does just need a little bit of TLC, I think. Let's go to the tactic, and if I do a quick pick, it should pick really the players in the positions that they played most frequently. I can't do a quick pick, apparently. There we go. If I do it this way, it should show you the players that they probably played most frequently over the course of the season, which is interesting to see that Cunha is playing as the striker. He got 19 goals, actually. Sarabia, wow. Oh, my word. I said Sarabia is going to have a big season. I didn't expect him to be playing out wide right here, but he's got 20. Let me see which positions. Yeah, he's been playing wide right, look, as actually in this system. He got 27 assists. That is outrageous with 16 goals. By far player of the season. I bet he got Premier League player of the season. He's actually unhappy. Why is he unhappy? He wants to leave to improve his chances of getting into the national setup. I feel like Spain should be picking you, Sarabia, if you've got a season like this in you. I mean, it was also 11 goals from Alex Scott. A great first season from him. We know how good he becomes on Football Manager. He starts great on Football Manager. So, I mean, Wolves fans, if you sign him, you'd be excited for that. Bristol City fans, you're kind of hoping you hold on to him, which, again, I'm not sure is too likely, but there we go. Other performances from players, if I just scroll down so you can see the rest of this squad. 16 starts for Abel Ruiz as the striker, 7 goals from him. Sasa Kalajic had only 3 starts but 5 goals, which is fun. Dominguez played a lot more than I expected him to. 11 starts with 4 goals as well, the youngster on that, well, I say left-hand side. Let's see where he actually played according to this. It was as that left mid look that I did suggest. And yeah, that's it really. That is the season. Let me show you. I'll show you actually how they did in other competitions here. The 4th place finish. They lost in the 3rd round of the FA Cup to Watford. They lost in the quarter-final of the Carabao Cup to Newcastle, so didn't really pull up too many trees. There were some big wins in here. There's actually a lot of losses in here. It was oh my word. Okay, so actually it's a tale of 2 halves. Look at the first half of the season from Wolves here. From August up until December, they lost 1 game to West Ham. I don't know what happened in November. Maybe players got unhappy, which seems to happen in Moanvember, as I call it. But from January onwards, they lost a load of games. Did win some really big games too. They beat Brighton 5-0 here, look. They beat Burnley, Sheffield United, beat Luton 4-0. They beat Forest 5-0. But yeah, did kind of bin off the season. That's a really tough end, actually. Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Villa, all in a row, look. Maybe that's part of the reasoning too. But an amazing first half of the season. Title-winning form, I would suggest. And then a horrible second half of the season. Maybe FM will be telling the future. I feel like it's unlikely. That, though, is our simulation, our Wolves rebuild. Let me know what you think of it. We will, I think for next time we do a video like this, and a few of you have suggested this, but I think I've worked out how to make it a thing. I think next time I won't do a tactic. Instead, I will put the real-life manager in as the assistant manager and let him take over. A bit like we do in the DOF save. Maybe instead of doing a realistic rebuild, we become the DOF for a squad, and that kind of does the same thing but leaves out any OP tactics, which seem to be quite easy to create and do exploit the match engine in a way, because I feel like this is an inflated Premier League finish, which isn't the main focus of the video. It's the transfers and the squad building aspect that I like to focus on, but I feel like that could be a fun way to angle it. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below, where we'll put Lopetegui in as the assistant and give all the responsibilities to him, and we'll just see what he plays in terms of a tactic. I think that's fun. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of today's video generally, and hopefully you did enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I'm going to keep going. There are other teams I want to go and do. I want to go and do Chelsea, because that is just a complete... I don't know what's going on at the club this summer, and it feels like they've got no midfielders and they're still trying to sign wingers. So I want to go and do the Chelsea one. There's Spurs with a new manager, which we could go and do a video like this with. There's loads, right? Let me know your suggestions and subscribe to the channel. We want to hit 50k as soon as possible. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. But most importantly, everybody, have a lovely rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye. Also, save files on the Claytron. Thank you to the Claytron members. You're about to see your names at the end of the video. Here. See you in a bit.